This was such a beautiful show with my girl, Kravetz. She is a spiritual business coach and CEO. She's straight out of New York City and leader of the Bronx Witch headquarters, the only co-working office space in New York City dedicated to spiritual practitioners. She's also the founder of Better Witch Coaching, where she coaches on magic, spirituality, and entrepreneurship. You are going to love this conversation when she talks about how she specializes in transforming her spiritual gifts into sustainable business models. Without further ado, enjoy the show. Allie, I am so excited to have you on the show. I am obsessed with the idea of your business. I can't wait to learn all the things and hear your story and get to know you better and learn how you came into like such a niched area. I'm super obsessed. So without further ado, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really, really honored to be here.
I'm like nervous a little bit. I feel like you are so cool and I'm just really, I feel really honored that you're giving us your time and space and your energy. So let's just like start from the top. Just tell us about yourself and what you do and what you stand for and all the things.
Yeah, well, first of all, that is such a huge compliment because when I first saw your like promo photos that came, I was like, oh, this girl's got it together. Like, I feel the exact same way. You're just like building something so beautiful, and I just love the way that you're presenting yourself and your business, your mission. But I am Allie Kravetz, aka the Bronx Witch. I am the owner and founder of formerly known as Bronx Witch headquarters. We're now going by the name Witchwork, and we are the only co-working space in New York City that caters to spiritual practitioners, energy healers, acupuncturists, massage therapists, tarot readers, etc. We've been open for about 3 years. We're located near Yankee Stadium. And I'm also the CEO of Better Witch Coaching, which is a class and coaching program for baby witches that want to become better witches. And I do that through classes, community, and coaching centered around spirituality and spiritual entrepreneurship.
Oh my God. I have so many questions.
Yes. I hope I have all the answers.
First of all, I love the Bronx Witch, the Witchworks idea. I actually, just a little plug myself, I'm going through IVF and I did acupuncture and my third round of IVF, and it has made the world of a difference. So all of the energy healing techniques, like I'm here for it. I'm obsessed with it, but I need to know, tell me the story of like building that space, what your idea was, how it became, when it was born, and how you put it into motion.
Yeah, well, so usually I have to kind of go back a little bit, and I don't drag people through the whole long story. I have videos on my YouTube, but I started my interest in witchcraft and tarot when I was 12 years old. So really young. I grew up in a very traditional Christian home. My family's from Charleston. We're in the AME church. You know, I have reverends and pastors for aunts and uncles. And so it was very out of the ordinary for me to even be interested in these things. They were definitely not being like discussed or promoted in my home. So this was really something that like was coming from within me. And thankfully, I live in a city like New York City where you have maybe a little bit more exposure to alternative lifestyles and things like that. And that kind of took me on a journey. And I was like that kid in the crystal shop every day and the like witchy section of Barnes and Noble all the time. And I found myself just feeling like I didn't want to grow up in a dogmatic kind of a way. I really wanted to have a good life, a bountiful life, a beautiful life. And I didn't see that necessarily like around me. I saw people doing things because they had to, but not necessarily because they were actually paying off for them. And then fast forward to adulthood, I worked really, really hard all of my years in academia to become a lawyer. I went to law school for 2 years at GW. I dropped out to do girly things like get married. And all along the way, like my interest in the craft and spirituality has always been there. And when COVID hit, I found myself with the opportunity to like really dive into that. And all of these things that I'd been learning over the years, I was like, oh, I think I understand now why I was learning them, because we're all freaking out. We're all fearful. We're all trying to stay as healthy as we possibly can, physically and emotionally, spiritually, all of that. And all of these things I've been learning about help me do that. I should share that with other people. So I started making herbal teas, going live on YouTube, doing collective tarot readings every week. And that just started to build a community, and kind of by accident also started to build a business. The more that I was making myself available and selling things and offering readings, the more I started to realize that I wanted to keep doing this, and that if I could make sure that it was profitable and that I created something that was sustainable, that maybe I could actually make that dream come true. And in 2021, at the end of it, I always tell the story, I did a 40-day sadhana, because I woke up at 35 years old in 2021, being like, where is this going, God? Like, what is the purpose of this? Like, am I supposed to, I don't want to be Tazo tea. I don't want to be Bath and Body Works. Like, why am I making candles? Why am I making teas? Where are we going with this? So I did a fast. A sadhana is like a spiritual fast. And I fasted, I did yoga, I meditated every day. I did no candles, no readings. I just said, I'm just going to pause and just like detox. And on day 39, I signed the lease here.
Ooh, I have goosebumps.
I was not looking for anything. I wasn't even thinking I was going to keep going, because I was like, we're getting back to normal. Like, I'm going to go back to law school, I guess, or, but no, it was like, nope, the purpose is to keep this going. So I opened up the space originally as just an office for me to work out of, because my apartment was getting filled with like boxes. But then I got COVID, unfortunately, early 2022. And in the middle of the night, at like 3 a.m, I was woken up like in a cold sweat. And I just saw this vision of like other people using the space. And I was like, oh, what if it was a community space? What if it was like a co-working type of a space? And I kind of shifted our model, made it bookable for others. And essentially here we are. We sold retail for a little while, but I ended that last year to solely focus on being a co-working space. So we have all the space now dedicated to reservable tables and private rooms. We have networking events, educational resources are available here, and community events, free pop-ups, opportunities for spiritual practitioners to be vendors and show the community what they do and sell their products. And we're basically here now to just support all the spiritual small businesses in the area.
That's freaking cool. Like, so amazing. I have 3 things to say. The first thing I want to say to our audience listening, I'm a content coach. So when I hear your story, what stands out to me is that you started with sharing what you were doing, and you shared that with the world for free. You provided value for free. You brought people along on the journey with you so authentically. And it's been built into this massive community that holds so much power. So I wanted to call that out, because to me, that's like the perfect setup for what you're doing now, is that you started with yourself. The second thing is I wanted to ask you 2 questions. The first question, how would you define witchcraft? And how would you describe what it is? And then my second question to that is, and I don't know if this is an appropriate question, but when you describe your upbringing and your family being religious, I think the perception that I have is that they would not welcome in witchcraft, quote unquote. And did you have any experiences of that, and what did that look like and feel like, and how did you combat that?
Yeah, great questions. First of all, what is it? Everyone kind of comes to the word from a different place and has a different idea, for sure. It's a very heavy word. Like, there's so much that like immediately floods into your mind when you hear it. For me, witchcraft is the understanding that we're more energy than we are matter, that we are all connected to everything around us because of that. And that therefore that means I don't have to be physically near something in order to have an impression or impact on it. So this could be a person, this could be a situation, that by shifting energy close to me and directing it where I want it to go, I can also have an impact on something that I maybe can't physically touch. And this is something that we all can do, and we all experience and do all the time, in my opinion. If you've ever been in a room and had the undeniable sensation that someone was looking at you, and then you turn around and in fact they are, that's just like a teeny tiny moment where your body is telling you that like something is impacting your self, the energetic part of you. Maybe no one's touching you, but you are being impacted for sure. And doing that intentionally, and then utilizing the things that we have access to on this planet, whether it's herbs, crystals, different waters, etc., in order to kind of amplify that. So you might feel the sensation of someone like looking at you, but not really much else happens. But if someone were to like be able to really like harness that energy, perhaps they could actually like make you physically feel something, like you were just touched or you were just pushed. And which is, do that. We work on that. We practice that in order to get kind of good at really being able to shift energy around ourselves and others. And then as it relates to my family, it's been a journey, for sure. So there have been different stages of like, what is it? Like the 5 stages of like grief or something, where people are like, first they're angry and then they're like accepting. And then, so when I was a teenager, obviously this was no bueno for my mom. My father passed when I was 3. My mom's living here in New York City. She's not from New York City. She's from like the most rural part of Charleston, South Carolina. The name of our town isn't even on a map that's bigger than the city of Charleston. So this was like, what is this? And like, here's my daughter. We're already in a big, scary place. And now she's into something that I've always been told is dangerous. That I think is potentially even like evil, that could lead her down terrible paths. She's in shops and hanging out with people I don't understand. She's wearing all this black. What is going on? So I definitely went through my goth phase. I think most teenagers do.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, there's like the tomboy phase and then the goth phase, and then you're like, okay, enough. But she was like, what to do with this? And it was a huge issue. I had to hide my altar tools in a cloth underneath my bed. I had to hide the books.
Like, did somebody give them to you?
No, so it was a lot of me stealing and repurposing because, I was a teenager, so I also was broke. I had like a babysitting job. So I stole like really cool candelabras that my mom had and like fancy glassware that was supposed to be for like dinner parties that never got used. And every once in a while she'd be like, where's that candlestick? And I'm like, I have no idea. So I would just like steal stuff, and then with like the little money I did have like working, I would go to the little shops and buy my crystals and feathers and different things. And so that's pretty much how I got most stuff. And as I got older, people know that you're witchy, so they start to gift you things. But I had to hide them all. So I would hide them. And then the books that I had, I would hide like behind my school books. And so it was a lot of hiding, because whenever she did find out about anything, it was definitely a fight. It was not okay. It was like, this is not allowed. Like, to the point of like, I maybe won't let you live here anymore if you keep doing this. Like, you have a little sister and you're going to be a bad impression. And like, it was just very much not okay. So I had to keep it to myself. I had moved out pretty young. I moved out on my own when I was 19, because I just needed that freedom. And I think that ultimately, when it comes to our parents, if you're blessed enough to have parents that love you, and I was, everything that they do is coming from that place of loving you. Like, they just want you to be safe. They want you to be smart. They just want to protect you. They want to set you up well so that when they one day aren't here, you are going to be okay. And I may not have understood that then, but I came to understand that as I became an adult. And I realized that the only way to really bring my mom over to my side was just to show her that I was going to be okay. And that what I believed about the world was benefiting me and helping me and allowing me to live a happy, healthy, whole life and not taking away from that. So I kind of just focused on that for my early adult years, just going to school and paying my rent. And, I eventually met my husband and, just doing all the things to let her know that like, I'm solid and I'm going to be okay. And we might not share all of the same views and you might not see me in church on a Sunday with you, but that does not mean that I don't have God in my life or I'm not guided by something greater and I'm not being good to people and being good to myself and all those things. So I think over time I was able to help her see that. And then in my 30s, we started to really open up with each other. We start to get into that like woman to woman type, part of your life. And we could really talk. And I started to share with her my thoughts on different religions and how they've been introduced to certain groups of people, especially as an African American. Like, where did Christianity come from in our history, and how has it helped, but maybe how has it also hurted, and all of that. And I think those were eye-opening conversations for her. Never has it ever been my intention to change her faith, change her views, make her not go to church, or do that for anybody else. Yeah. But I did want her to try to understand me better, and I think that happened. And now, she wears Bronx Witch merch and she's got copies of all the books I've been featured in, and she watches my podcasts on YouTube. And I think I think that's the only way to do it with people is to let them see that the goodness in your heart is what matters the most. And the other stuff is just like little details. And of course I have distant family members that are perhaps more dogmatic than my mom. She's very religious, but she was never like fanatical, if I can use that word without like offending. Sure. But I do have family members that are a bit more dogmatic with their practices. They're a little less interested in other views. And that's been interesting. And I have to sort of decide in the moment how much I want to share, or whether or not I really feel like it's worth it to engage in certain conversations. And where I feel that it is, I will, and where it isn't, I respectfully decline.
Yeah, man, yeah. I love listening to you talk about it, because I do think it's witchcraft and even energy healing in itself sometimes can turn people off so much, and the way that you speak about it so eloquently, it seems that you have so much wisdom around it. And thanks. Also simultaneously, I think you're giving so much love to people that even disagree with you, which I think represents witchcraft and energy healing as a whole. Yeah. I think that's where it's misunderstood, is that I do think people believe that witchcraft people think one way and no other way, and I actually think it's the opposite. I think there's multiple perspectives there. So I really respect the way that you speak on this. When you were defining witchcraft, it made me think of the documentary called Heal. Have you seen it?
No.
So I just watched it the other night, and it's on Prime Video. So if you want to watch it, but it comes from this core belief that we are all connected. And to your point of the herbs and the teas and the food being medicine, and that entire idea, it stems from that, as well as like the way that we breathe and the way that we meditate and the way that we think about different things and how that affects and impacts our health. And so the way that you're speaking on what you believe in and what you stand for, coming from such a healthy place of, I respect that everyone has their own belief. You don't have to believe my way. But I have enough respect for myself that I can also, like you said, respectfully decline to hear your opinion sometimes. So so much respect for you and standing for what you believe in. I want to shift gears a little bit and talk about how you coach clients in this realm. Yeah. What are you known for, and what do they come to you for, and who is your ideal client in this space?
Yeah. So becoming a spiritual business coach is kind of like everything. I have just been shuttled into these things. There was never a time where I was like, I'm going to do this. But what was happening with people coming in is, folks are using our space. So they're tarot readers, they're energy healers. Most of them are starting out in their practices, and that's why they need a space that is cohabitated, because they perhaps are not far enough along in their entrepreneurial journeys that they can afford an entire office for themselves, or opening up a storefront. And so working in a collective space gives them the affordability, but also like a professional place to work out of. And as I was meeting people, I just kept getting into these conversations where folks were like, well, how did you grow your following? Or like, well, do I really need insurance if I'm a tarot reader? They started asking these technical questions, and I found myself essentially coaching for free for a year, just to anybody who was here and would want to pick my brain. And I started to realize that across the board, there was a common thread that spiritual practitioners didn't have enough business education in order to make the jump from the idea and the deep desire to heal or to do spiritual work to actually creating revenue and a consistent client base and all the things that you need, and legal business formation to actually be able to operate as a business and generate wealth, which is what is necessary if you would like to perhaps leave your 9 to 5 and do your spiritual work full time. Yeah. And I think the misconception that was bred quite heavily during COVID was that, like, if you just get on YouTube and get a lot of followers, then you'll be a famous tarot reader and you'll make tons of money because YouTube pays $1 million, right? And you'll be able to quit your job. So everyone thinks that you make so much money on YouTube. It's not
yeah.
But it can help. And but people didn't really understand that. So I had all of these energy healers that during COVID, got their Reiki certifications and bought 100 decks and a ring light and started going live. But then we're like, I can't afford to keep doing this. I have to go back to work now. My kids need me. And I'm doing $5 readings on, with Cash App on my Instagram. So I realized that there really was a need for spiritual practitioners to get the business background that would help them to actually create something sustainable. And that it needed to be simplified and it needed to be tailored to our industries. If you are a tarot reader getting started, like, we do not need to be talking about S corps. Like, we don't, you know what I mean? Like, we don't need to be talking about payroll. And if you just go out onto the internet and try to learn through the internet, you're going to be overwhelmed with the information out there. And most of it's not going to be specific to you because you're in such a niche category. Even as a service-based provider, there's like the even further smaller of like spiritual service. There's like some particular considerations there, like having language in your website about tarot readings being for entertainment, or relieving yourself of liability if someone was to act on what they got in a reading, right? Wow. That like maybe another type of service provider wouldn't even have to think about. So I was like, how do I help specifically those types of people? And that started turning into sessions, which then grew into, once I kind of had enough people go through this, I was like, oh, if I take them down this journey, like, they will be generating revenue and they will be in a solid position within 6 weeks. So that's when I launched my 6 weeks to launch program. From day 1 to 6 weeks, your business will be formed. We'll have a social media strategy. We'll have a plan for developing a community. We'll have funnels in place to bring people into your world, nurture them, turn them into clients, and we'll have a really good value-packed offer that you can provide them with, and different price points so that you can serve your purpose as a spiritual practitioner of like being available to the world. And then there was like the component of how spiritual practitioners look at the world, which is typically not the same as the way like the capitalist sort of world that we're in looks at things. So I do a lot of coaching around money mindsets and being okay with making money, being okay with doing genuine, authentic spiritual work that really helps people, and saying, you have to pay me and you have to pay me my value. And what I've learned and what I can do for you is not charity. and all of that good stuff. So that's how that started. And my ideal client really is someone who wants to make a positive impact on the world with their spiritual practices and finds that they don't have the time or the resources to do that because they haven't figured out how to generate revenue and build something sustainable around it. So they're having to choose between their spiritual work and living and surviving. Okay. And I am here to help them see that they can do both. They don't have to choose. Your spiritual work can actually be your survival and maybe even also your abundance.
That's good. I love that. That sounds so rich. I'm curious your take on this now that you've worked with so many spiritual practitioners. How does someone just in the general public, if we see so many tarot card readers on TikTok and spiritual teachers, what are the characteristics we can look for to maybe open up to trusting what they're saying is not necessarily real, because I don't want to say that there are fake practitioners out there at all, but I think more developed and more in tune with seeing it for reality versus maybe just going along with what they're saying.
Yeah.
What do we look for? Well,
I think before even like kind of sizing up what to look for, I would encourage people to take their time. Take more time. Over this journey for myself, I've had quite a few people tell me, when they book a tarot reading, oh, I saw you on YouTube yesterday. Like you came across my YouTube feed and I was just like, oh, and I had to book a reading. And I'm like, I appreciate that. In the future, I'd like you to give it more time actually.
Wow.
Like I'm happy that you're here. But getting to know a person online or out in the world is the same as getting to know someone like in your intimate life. And I think that, if you just met someone, you probably would not get married to them today. You would want to get to know them. And if you are looking for a genuine impact in your life, some people could tarot readings just like for fun or just to like, I want to see something, like show me something, wow me or whatever. Those are folks that are looking for entertainment and, that's whatever. But for people that are really struggling through something and are looking for some type of spiritual guidance or a message, you owe it to yourself and you deserve to take your time in choosing that person and not picking the first person that you see online or that has a large following or like really great graphics. Sit and listen, scroll through some stuff, watch some videos. If they are in business for themselves, then they're going to be sharing themselves quite openly and they're going to be pretty transparent about what they've got available. So there should be plenty of material for you to peruse through and just give yourself time. And while you're in that space, definitely look for the responses of others. Look for reviews, look for what other folks who are working with them are saying about their experience. And then look for, I think the hallmarks of just like legitimacy. Is the website a secure address? Are they asking for payment through an actual payment processor or are we like cash apping each other? Do they have a public facing website and platform or are they in your DMs saying like, oh, we can just handle this right here? Are they pressuring you to work with them is a really big one. You shouldn't ever feel pressured to work with anyone, but I think in particular a spiritual practitioner, they should be in alignment with your greatest good. So they should not be interested in putting you in a place that makes you feel uncomfortable or that rushes you into something that might ultimately not be for you. So if you're feeling pressure, if you're not able to say, can I get back to you? If you're not able to say, thanks for the information, I'll check you out at another time, without being like made to feel like you're doing something wrong. I think all of those things are things to look for.
I love that. That is such good advice. Thank you for that. Before I ask you the final question of the show, I actually want to back up and ask you, so our audience is full of badass female entrepreneurs. Yes.
My favorite type of person.
Yes.
No offense to everyone else.
Yeah, we love you all. So if you were to give us a recommendation of maybe a certain type of herbal tea or a crystal or a certain mantra or prayer, what is the one thing, like what is your go-to for people like us that you think we could incorporate into our daily routine?
Oh, that is so, so, so great. Because there really are so many things. And
I'm sure.
because we are all so unique, um, there's really, it's hard to pick one thing that everyone would benefit from. What I think is probably the most objectively beneficial is to establish routines, establishing a routine. Um, and what I mean by that is we often, I think, especially for those of us who are women or femme identifying, we tend to put everybody else before ourselves. And things like a morning meditation, a cup of tea at night, self care every month. These things tend to get pushed to the side and they become like a if I find time, if I have extra money, when I get more organized type of thing. And we end up just never getting around to them. And then we're burnt out, we're exhausted, taking care of everyone else, and there's really nothing left in the tank to put behind a great idea or a deep desire to be in business for yourself. And for me, the only way that I've been able to combat that is by creating a daily routine for myself that I really work hard to stick to. Because even things like eating lunch, it'll be 5 o'clock and I won't have eaten anything, right? And then I'm exhausted. And then am I going to go home and work on my business after 8 hours of work? And like maybe the kids are crying. I don't have kids, but a lot of people do. The kids are crying. The cat needs to be fed, what have you. Of course not. I'm just not going to have it in me to be able to do that, right? But I don't know if you heard a minute ago, there was like a little ding. That's my alarm saying in 30 minutes it's lunchtime. Because at 3 o'clock, I'm going to stop whatever I'm doing. I'm going to sit down and I'm going to eat the salad that I brought me today. Because to realistically be able to do anything else in the rest of the day, I have to stop and take that time. So all of us, whatever our lives are, you are able to create a routine that works for you. But create the routine, establish the routine, and take that very seriously. Actually pull out a calendar, pull out a planner, and write these things down. I take my clients through something I call time blocking, where we take everything that you could possibly be doing, because the CEO to-do list never ends, that you possibly could be doing. We dump it all on paper with no thoughts, scratches, scribble, whatever. It's not going to be cute. We just throw it all on paper. And then we categorize it based on how much revenue it can bring us versus how much time and energy it's going to take, so that we can prioritize these things. And then we plug the time to work on them into our calendar. And we actually say, okay, Saturdays, I don't work. It's the time when I have the most energy, because Friday night I usually knock out and get a lot of sleep. So Saturday mornings, I am going to do my high revenue, like high priority tasks, the things that take a lot of energy, but that could generate me a lot of revenue and a lot of client outreach if I got them done. I'm going to do that on Saturday mornings, and sticking to that. So I would say really, aside from a tea or a crystal or a particular spiritual practice, it's establishing a routine that you stick to, and then your spiritual practices or holistic practices go into that routine, right? So if you're someone that really feels grounded and calmed by having a hot cup of tea, where is that in your routine? If a hot cup of tea would not work for you because that's just not your thing, but journaling for 15 minutes would really help get some stress. Going for a run for 20 minutes in your neighborhood would really burn off some stress. Whatever spiritual and holistic practices you need in order to feel grounded and clear-headed and ready to go, then you plot those in and make sure that they get in there.
I love that. You just delivered that beautifully. Thank you for that little coaching advice.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the final question that everyone on the show gets asked is, obviously coming from me, I'm a content coach. So I'm curious, what is the best content advice that you've ever been given? And how would you describe it? Have you implemented it, and what have the results been?
Oh, yes. It's kind of twofold. One is to be telling stories all the time, to let people into your story. And I think that's kind of a hot topic right now. Everyone's sort of talking about, in the content world, talking about how important storytelling is and how it's kind of taking over the game in terms of like your marketing approach. And I second that advice. I think that's a really great idea. People, especially with spiritual practitioners, it's an energy thing. It's a vibe thing. Like, you have to connect with people, and people have to feel like they can trust you, and like you're going to create a warm and welcoming container for them. And the only way they're going to get that is if they know your personal story. Why you care about me in the first place is key. So always be telling your story. Don't assume that people already know how you got started. Don't assume they know why you're doing this, what your motivating factors are. Don't assume that they know the next competition you're going out for, or this thing that you're working on. Rather than working on things behind the scenes and then launching something that you think is perfect to crickets, take people along with you from day one. Like, hey, everybody, I'm thinking about doing this thing.
Yes.
Show them the whole journey. By the time you actually create it and launch it, you're going to have so many people that are invested in it because they've been watching you try to make it happen from day one, that they're like, sign me up. I want to be there when you actually do this. I'm so proud of you for getting this far. So that's the first half. And then the other half, really good advice that I got was that people buy transformations and solutions. So if selling something is a part of what you're doing, and most of us are selling something, then understand that educating them, offering educational advice probably won't do it. Entertaining them, right? So like, you learned the latest TikTok dance, that's great. You'll probably get a lot of views, right? But will you get customers or clients? Will they pay you for that? Probably not. And what I learned is that people pay for solutions and transformations. So show them that. Show them how your clients have transformed because of what you have showed them, taught them, whatever. And if you're starting out and you don't have clients yet, then how have your practices transformed your life? And if they haven't, then that's probably an indication that we're not at a point where we should be selling it just yet, right? Anything you're selling to somebody, it should have worked for you first, and now it's something you can advertise for others. So show them your own transformation. You know, eating breakfast every day helped me lose 10 pounds. So now I am teaching other people how diet changes can impact your weight and help you lose weight. That's the thing that's going to get them to sign up. So if you're dancing or you're doing things, you're entertaining, you're educating, and you're wondering why you don't have sales, it's because people don't pay for those things. They pay for results. So show them what the results really will be.
I love that. Good advice. My gosh, Allie, you are a beautiful soul. I appreciate your time and energy so much. Where can we find you? I know you said you have a YouTube show. What is that called? And where are you on Instagram? Like, tell us all the places.
All the places. Yeah. So definitely tune into the Better Witch podcast, because when you know better, you witch better. The Better Witch podcast is, taglines. I need to trademark that. But on that platform, I usually have conversations with experts in spirituality. They're usually authors or spiritual entrepreneurs. And we just have really casual chats, because I feel like you learn more from just hearing about people's like mistakes and crazy experiences and things like that. So we have casual chats. I record those live on YouTube, and then the edited audio versions go up in seasons on all podcast platforms. So you can search for Better Witch on Spotify, Apple, all the places, or you can watch the live recordings on YouTube and actually interact with the guest and ask questions. So that's kind of a benefit to watching it on YouTube. On my YouTube channel, you'll also find educational information, clips of my weekly refuels with my group coaching folks in the bunker, old videos about magic, about my journey, about me. So that's definitely a place to go. You can just search for Bronx Witch on YouTube. The channel is actually called Better Witch Coaching and Podcast, but you can search for Bronx Witch and it'll come up. And I encourage you to follow me on Instagram and Threads at Bronx Witch.
Okay, I will link all of that also below in the show notes in the description so you guys can go check her out. I'm definitely going to be going and binging all the things.
Thank you.
I know that for sure. Yeah, I'm obsessed with you. You're so cool. I appreciate you so much and your energy that you brought to this. And
Thank you.
I can't wait to just follow your journey and see all the big things that you do. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It's been an honor to be here. I really appreciate it. Blessed be.